Hey everybody, Mike McWilliams upstairs to the right music channel. Thank you for joining us here today. A little house cleaning before we get started. First, I didn't have a live stream last Sunday because I was a little bit under the weather. You can expect that coming up again this week on Sunday, which is 11 p.m. Central European time. So you guys can look forward to that. Sorry about last Sunday. What else? Yeah, you know, it's been quite a hectic week for me. So I didn't put out a lot of content last week, but believe me, I've got a lot of great stuff coming up, like what we're going to talk about today. So a little bit of a head-to-head we're going to do here on the channel today between these two guitars right here. Here I have the Epiphone SG, which is based on the 1966 Batwing design. And next to me, I have the Harley Benton SE Custom, which is based on maybe a Viper design or ESP designs that I've seen, but we'll talk about that. Basically, still both of them are SG style guitars. Now, in this competition that we're going to do today, this head-to-head, we are going to look at the features of these guitars in part one. In part two, we're going to do a sound head-to-head with these guitars, and we're actually going to throw a third one in the mix just to make it interesting. But for today, we're going to do a structural analysis of these two guitars head-to-head. This is going to be a check, no check system. So if the guitar gets a check, that means it's all good. No check means that no, it's not. We're going to tabulate at the end the final score of our check, no check system, and we're going to see which one of these two guitars actually is worth the money. Now, they're both considered to be budget guitars, but they are in no means budget instruments, and you will see that as we go through them. What it is an idea of why the Epiphone SG is approximately $200 more in value than the SE Custom from Harley Benton. And let's tear into it a little bit and see if we can figure out why that is. Now, coming in weights. Weights for an SG is really, really important. The lighter weight the SG is, just as Derek Trucks. The lighter an SG is, the more resonant it is, the better off that growl and tone that you're going to get out of it. This SG right here, let's start with the Epiphone. So this SG weighs in at 6 pounds, 0.02 ounces. My scale is not so great, so the ounces is off, we'll say plus or minus 2, which puts it around basically 6 pounds. And it is one of the reasons why I kept this guitar, because quite frankly, a lightweight SG, as Derek Trucks will tell you, is a gem to have. And this one is absolutely lightest SG that I've had in my hands. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, the Harley Benton comes in at 7 pounds, 9 ounces. So almost a full 2 pound increase in weight between these two guitars, and it's something that you might want to take into consideration as we go on down the line here. Now, I will say that this is the lightest SG that I've ever held in my hands. And as we go forward and I talk a little bit more about it, it's one of the reasons why I said I would hold on to it, but I'm going to talk about the problems that this guitar had that almost made me go back on my word. But one of the significant things about it that made me decide to keep it was the fact that its weights were so good. It has good weights to it. All right. So the weight is so good to it. So let's move on. Okay, first we're going to talk about body. All right. So the body of both of these guitars is essentially three-piece. Now, there's a little trick with Epiphones when they're painted like this that you can turn it here in the light. If you look at it at an angle, you can actually see the seams of where the wood pieces are glued together. And in the case of this guitar, it's a three-piece body. There's a big chunk here, a little chunk here, and then the edge. In the case of this guitar, it's also a three-piece body. But they, at the factory in Indonesia sintered these pieces. So if you can see, there is, let me put this one down. One piece, center piece, and then a matching piece. So actually, this is a really good piece of work with 3 pieces of wood that it actually looks like it's part of the design, and it looks great. So both of these guitars are made from the same type of mahogany. They're probably sourced from the same source. So nothing really there in terms of difference in terms of body. Actually, with this check no check on both of these, because of that and because the bodies are so similar in terms of the way that they're constructed and the materials that are made, they both get a check. All right. We talked about weight. Let's move on to another part of, so the weight of these guitars, again, just to rehash that, 6 pounds, 8 pounds, basically. Significant difference that's going to play a big part in a ruling that we will get to as we proceed along. All right. Next up, neck. The neck on this guitar, on the Harley Benton, is what you would consider to be a slim taper neck. It doesn't have a lot of shoulders. It has a good amount of depth to it, but it is actually one of the thinnest necks that I've come across in terms of its width. Its depth, it still has a little bit of a handful, and I got big mitts. So even still, it's not tragically thin and wide like you'll get with some slim tapers. It's actually thin in the shoulders, but it has a little bit of body to it going up the neck. And quite frankly, it's a very nice feeling neck because of the poly that they use on this guitar. So, but not too indifferent from the feel of the neck on the SG. The fretwork on this guitar was perfect out of the factory. There was here on the 13th fret, it was a high fret. We just had to tap that down. That's not a big deal. But other than that, no, the fretwork was just perfect on the neck of this particular guitar. The material of the fretboard on this is Jatoba. Or Purple Heart, so it feels very similar to ebony actually. It has an ebony fretboard kind of feel to it. All right, so that's the neck on this guitar. Let's take a look at the neck on the Epiphone. So the neck on the Epiphone has wide shoulders to it. But it's got not the round, it's got a flat, again, I would say a slim taper to it, like a medium C, I guess you would say. It's kind of weird. Actually not weird in the bad sense. I actually like it because it's got a lot more shoulder to it than the SG. Not the roundness in terms of the body of it, but the shoulder of it is really nice. In terms of the playability of this, again, same kind of poly finish, so not a fast neck, I would say, but you know, you work on it, it'll get there. A little bit of elbow grease will speed it up in practice. What else can I say about this neck? The finger material is Indian Laurel, same thing that they've been using for a while. Do I have a preference between Indian Laurel or Jatoba? I'd have to say no. So in terms of the necks on both of these guitars, it comes down to your personal preference. I myself can play either one. I have a preference actually towards the Harley Benton. For some reason, it just feels comfortable to play. However, it's no less the same with the SG. It's just a personal preference between the two. Either one will do. So as long as we're talking about necks, let's get into the fretwork. I talked about the fretwork on the Harley Benton. A loose fret on the 13th fret, we tap that down, no problem. The frets on the Epiphone are a completely different story. Actually, in Fern's words, as you know, Fern is our friendly neighborhood luthier that you're familiar with if you watch this channel. Fern said that it seemed as if they just put the frets in, set them in, and that was it. There was no kind of work in terms of putting them in properly. So from the 13th fret, ironically, on this guitar on up, the frets were all uneven. This guitar required complete fret leveling and polish. Now, a complete fret leveling and polish will run you around about $120 if you're lucky. Again, the QC between these two guitars in terms of the fretwork, I'd have to say that I've never had a problem with the frets on any of the Harley Bentons that I've personally bought. The 4 Epiphones that I've purchased, this is the first one that really had that severe of a problem. So it may just have been, an unfortunate luck of the draw in my case to get it. However, that does, lead into the QC issues that you'll find between these two guitars if you get them yourself. You could have no issues, you could have some. So I'm going to give frets to the Harley Benton this time because the frets on the Epiphone were so atrocious that honestly it just required a lot of work to it and added to the actual overall expense of the guitar, I might add as well. All right, up next are the tuners on these guitars. Now, let's start over here with the Epiphone. The Epiphone comes with these Epiphone branded tuners. These are very similar to the Gibson Deluxe tuners, and honestly, and these are Gibson Deluxe tuners here on that I put on the Harley Benton. We'll talk about that in a minute. Between the Gibson and the Epiphone branded ones, quite frankly, I can't see any difference in terms of the quality. They're both great tuners. I love Kluson tuners. I put them on all of my guitars. The issue with this one is, let's see if you can see it. I'm going to zoom in, and this tuner right here is just so ever off. It's not quite placed right. So yet not a big thing, it's just a little wonky. But again, another QC issue that the Epiphone has that the Harley Benton did not. Now, the Harley Benton actually comes with these tuners. I have them here in the Gibson box from the tuners I replaced it with, but these are actually Grover branded tuners. These are great tuners. I myself, I'm not a fan of Grover tuners, so especially on FGs and neck dive, just not a good way to go. But these are great Grover tuners that I'm going to put away in my toolbox, and they'll probably go on some other guitar down the line. So out of the box, you're doing great with the Harley Benton and with the Epiphone in terms of tuners. Again, like I said, I personally have a preference towards Kluson tuners, so I put a set of Gibson, what are these, 18:1 ratio tuners on here, and they're just fantastic. I would have to say that it would be a check in both of these guitars boxes in terms of the tuners. You can buy the Harley Benton and do just fine with the stock Grovers that they give you. And the same thing, of course, with the Epiphone as well. So they both get a check in this regard. Neck dive. Real quick, I'm going to talk about the neck dive on both of these instruments. The neck dive on the Epiphone SG is not bad. It's still got a little bit on it, but if you have a proper strap that has, this is a hemp strap, made from Native Sons. If you guys know Native Son straps, it was Brad, the guitarist, that hit me to this company. These are fantastic straps. With a good quality strap like this, you're not going to get any kind of neck dive or slippage. It really comes down to your strap, in my opinion. But the neck dive is a lot less on this super light SG than it is on this slightly, well, a little significantly heavier SG custom over here by Harley Benton. So that's something for you guys to ponder upon if you're worried about neck dive. So we'll give a check over here to the Epiphone. Now, in overall looks between these two guitars, since we finished up the body section, in terms of overall looks, these are both kind of killer guitars. The fact that you can see the wood grain and the three pieces were so perfectly matched when they put it together, in terms of looks, really the Harley Benton takes it because you can see the wood grain and just overall with the binding on the headstock and just the overall vibe of this guitar. However, that's not to put this one down at all. This has a great look to it. It's just got that classic SG look, and it certainly does look the part. They both look like professional instruments, and that's really because they are. So, but I'd have to say just in overall looks, in my personal preference, you may feel a little bit different. Down in the comments section, you can tell me which one you like better, but I'm going to give the check to actually the Harley Benton in terms of looks. So next up is QC. I'm going to just go ahead and automatically give it to the Harley Benton. Out of the box, I had no issues with the Harley Benton at all other than that slightly raised fret. Again, that was just as simple as doing a little fret tapping to get it in place, and it's been perfect. There are no bleeding in terms of the paint over the binding on the Harley Benton or on the Epiphone either. However, the Epiphone with the wonky tuny peg and the really, really poor factory fret job really gives a check to the Harley Benton in this case. The QC may be different with you. You may have had in the opposite experience where your Harley Benton was bad and your Epiphone or whatever was great. In my case, really the QC on the Harley Benton, and everyone that I've had, and I've had four Harley Bentons and 4 Epiphones. So in that grouping, that's pretty good. So on that note, I can say that I've had more QC problems with Epiphones than I have with Harley Bentons. And that's just the fact of it in my experience, 4 and 4. 4 Epiphones, 4 Harley Bentons. All right. Hardware. Here's where it gets interesting. Let's talk about the hardware. The hardware on the Harley Benton that you get is pretty just generic stock stuff. Its quality is no different than you would find on the hardware on the Epiphone. So in that regard, I would have to say they're very similar. However, with the Harley Benton with the knobs, it actually came with Telecaster knobs, tele knobs. So these here, let me see if I can get this out. Yeah, so it came with these type of tele speed knobs, and for this style of guitar it just really didn't work for me, so that's why I actually put Epiphone knobs on here, actually the same knobs on this guitar over here, and thumb bleeders as well. In terms of the inside electronics under the hood, so to speak, the Harley Benton caps and their over in their pots were not great. I would say that they were some of the cheap. They work. Don't get me wrong. They will do the job. They are sufficient to do the job, but they are on the low end in terms of quality. Whereas in the Epiphone, you're actually getting CTS pots in the back here. So really, you're getting a better deal in terms of the electronics with the Epiphone, and I think that's one of the areas where you're where that extra $200 comes in. Now, as I said, with CTS pots, there's levels of CTS, just like there's levels of just about anything. These are not the higher end CTS pots, but they're certainly not the lower end ones. So yeah, you're getting a better deal with your internal electronics with this guitar in terms of your pots and caps. And unless you have quick lock, a quick whatever snap pickups, then it's completely useless to you. So in the case of this guitar, I had all that ripped out. It's already been done, and just gone to standard 50s wiring on this. However, still in all, you are getting a better quality pots and caps than you are with the Harley Benton with the Epiphone, so the check goes to the Epiphone. Okay, next up is my favorite part, are pickups. Now, pickups are really, really important. They're 80% of the game, in my opinion, when it comes to a guitar. Now, the pickups that came with the Harley Benton are Roswell LAF pickups. They are Alnico 5 pickups, and quite frankly, they can be had for about $30 each on the market. And even in that case, I think you may be overpaying. I'm not a fan of the Roswell pickups. I found the bridge pickup to be okay. The neck pickup was dull. No matter of height setting that I did really made a difference in that regard. I think that they are improvement over the Wilkinson pickups that Harley Benton uses, but at the end of the day, they'll do the job, but they are very not quite up to the task completely. So that's something that you might want to consider. Now, on the other hand, with the Epiphone, that came with their Alnico Classic Pro pickups, which are Alnico 2 pickups, magnets in those. And I was honestly surprised. I thought that although one-dimensional, it had no depth in terms of the tone, the overall tone. However, the Alnico Classic Pro pickups that came in the Epiphone are quite excellent, actually. They are not bad. They are said to be based on the 57 Classics. I've owned and played a Gibson with 57 Classics, as you know, my gold top. But they're a little bit sweeter, a little bit more trebly, but they are not bad pickups at all. So I think that this is another area where you're getting your money increase between these two guitars is in the pickup arena. You could rock and roll with the pickups that come with the Epiphone, no problem. You keep it stock. You don't have to swap them out. You're good to go. With the Harley Benton, as you can see, I have swapped it out with a pair of custom winds by Q pickups because the Roswells weren't really holding up to snuff. So I would have to give the check to the Epiphone. I think that's one of the reasons why you're paying more, is because the pickup quality is significantly better. Now, in terms of overall build, the Harley Benton has a set neck design. So that's, good, and it's a very quality way of putting a guitar together. However, surprisingly, as you can see in this photo, the SG has a short tenon, which in terms of its build, it makes it extremely historically accurate to the way that it was built in 1966. If you look at the builds of the 66 Gibsons and the build of this 2021 Epiphone, both of them have the short tenon in it. So that is a correct feature that I was very surprised to find in this guitar. It's a little bit, you can see the tenon in this picture right here of the tenon you would get in the Epiphone 59. That's a long tenon. So you can see the difference between a long tenon and a short tenon. So in terms of overall build, I have to give it to the Epiphone because, quite frankly, that short tenon and a few other things that they do make it just a little bit better, not a hair better than the Harley Benton. Still a great build on the Harley Benton. As a matter of fact, a fantastic build. So these are both fantastically built guitars. I'm only giving the point to the SG because, frankly, that short tenon does mean a lot to me personally in terms of its originality in terms of build. Okay, so we come down to the last few points. Is which one of these would I gig? If I had to gig these instruments, which one would I pick up and take on the road with me? And I guess really because of the weight, as I said, that would play a significant role down the line. Actually, the Epiphone wins. Now that we've had it, I mean, the fret job on this is better than factory now. Now that we've got it set up and playing nice, it's a beautiful guitar, and because of its lightweight, it's really a joy to just sit around and play. And because of the weight of this, I wouldn't want to take this on the stage with me. It's almost as heavy. You're getting into Les Paul territory with this guitar in terms of weight. This is so much more of a pleasure. So in terms of gigging, I would take this guitar. Tone-wise, everything stock out of it, yeah, this would be the gigging winner. Now, studio. Interestingly enough, I would take this one for the studio. After swapping out your pickups, changing those pots, and with the push-pull that you have on this guitar, a function that you don't have on the Epiphone, in terms of tonal variety that you can get out of this instrument, it's far better suited for studio recording actually than the Epiphone, in my opinion. You can get a lot of great tones out of single coil tones when you pull that push-pull pot. If you just keep it with the humbuckers, great humbucker tone out of this thing, almost Les Paul-like, I think because of the thickness, but with that SG growl. So a great studio recording instrument, the Harley Benton is. So I had to give the check to it as opposed to the Epiphone, which is a great one for the studio as well. You can record with it, no problem. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the versatility of this instrument. Between the two of these, this one is really the better deal. So in conclusion, really, if you're on a budget, you really want to take a serious look at this. If you got a little bit more to spend, but you won't want to go all the way up to getting a Gibson SG, this is the way to go. I will say that there is one more step above this, which is the 61 SG that they came out, two-piece body, one-piece neck, Burstbucker 2 and 3, I said it right that time, 2 and 3 pickups, and really a great guitar, but it is only a step up, I think, in this regard that it's two-piece body, one-piece neck. Everything else, I think, pretty much is in the pocket, the same as this. So it really comes down to your personal preference, and it does a long neck tenon make a difference to you as opposed to a short neck tenon, which actually in this regard is more historically accurate. I'll have to take a look at a 61 SG and see if those actually had long tenons in them. Anyway, I digress. So in the end, with 12 points, the Epiphone came out as the winner in this head-to-head, edged out by 1 point. Again, it came down to the pickups. It was the fact that out of the box, the pickups in the SG are far superior, really honestly. It's just not my opinion. You yourself will hear that if you buy these. I'm actually not going to put the Roswells back in again so you can hear how much of a mess they are, but take my word for it, you're getting a better bang for the buck in terms of pickups with the Epiphone, and that's the reason why it's the winner over this guitar. Other than that, you couldn't lose buying either one. They're both fantastic for what they do. You're paying more for this one, of course, as I said, because of the electronics and the pickups, but both fantastic guitars. Check them both out if you get the chance. I can't sing enough praises, however, of this one. This one punches above it. This should be going for $400, honestly speaking. These actually should be the same price. But it's something to consider. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. I hope you enjoyed this head-to-head. So next week, we're going to be doing our next, I don't know if it's going to be next week, but next time, when you see these, we're going to do a sonic head-to-head. We're going to compare pickups. And you're going to see what I'm talking about in terms of pickup quality. All right, guys, you take care until the next show. See you around. Bye-bye.